So just the usual general kind of housekeeping is obviously if you're not speaking, then just to mute your mics so we don't get any weird interference. We're going to present, well, we're all from Articulate Cultural Trust, and we're going to present today on a project that we've been doing, which is called the Cradle of Learning. We'll introduce ourselves first. So I'm Laura, I'm a producer at Articulate, and I work closely with the young people to develop opportunities that might help them in their routes into careers and things like that. But otherwise, just in general life, we have a lot of fun, we have a lot of laughs, we eat a lot of food, and we work on projects that are interesting to us. And our young folk are really motivated by change and reform and making things better for the next generation. I'll pass on to Steph, and you can introduce yourself, Steph.
Hi, I'm Steph. I'm a co-researcher on this project, and I'm care experienced as well. So I'll pass on to Jed. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jade Kilkenny. I'm a uni student and I'm a writer and I'm a co-researcher on this, but also work with Articulate on different things as well. I would say that being care experience is the last thing because I'm more than just my experience. And I just want to say that the exits are here and because we're on them, you know. Well,
Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim. I'm one of the co-researchers as well. I'm also care experienced and got involved with Cradle of Learning because I would like to go to university myself, and I realised there was so many barriers against going to university, being an older care experienced, not young person anymore kind of a thing. So I just really wanted to be involved in this, and I love it. I absolutely love where we've went so far, and we're doing amazing.
We are that. Jade, can you give us a
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I'm Jade Kilkenny, and I'm a uni student. I'm a writer, and I also work with Articulate on various projects and things. And I'm a co-researcher on this. And I would say that my experience is the last on my list because I'm more than my experience, but I am care experience, and I'm just going to say that the exits are here and here because obviously we're on teams and it's just a wee joke, you know what I mean? So I hope you enjoyed the day, and hope you love us as much as we love us.
Thanks, Jade. So we're not going to do a presentation today. We're going to share our work on a Padlet. The Padlet is it's basically a platform that we use quite regularly for projects because it helps us to sort of work with loads and loads of different theories and concepts at the same time without getting too overwhelmed by them. So I'm just going to share this, which is our Cradle of Learning Padlet, and I'll explain through it. If you've got any questions or anything, please pop them in the chat and we will get to them at the end. And also, if the functionality on this Padlet doesn't work for you, you can answer the questions in the chat and we'll pick them up. So I'll give you a very brief overview into Padlet. So this is the Padlet program here. We put the tabs at the top are our themes or our activities. How you contribute to the Padlet is either through adding a comment or through this plus button at the bottom of each little panel, and you can add whatever you want to do as long as it's not rude, which I'm sure nobody would. So I'm going to give a brief introduction to this Cradle of Learning project. So we're Articulate Cultural Trust. We're an organisation who works with young people who have experience with the care system and care leavers in creative ways that help them to navigate their world, make sense of their experiences, and to overcome barriers that might sort of be in their way into terms of leading successful lives. And one of the main things in that we find is holds our young folk back is education systems that are not helping them to get where they need to be. So kind of statistic on that is that less than 30% of care leavers are going into higher education. So we're annoyed about that. This other organisation, the Verbatim Formula, who are from London, are also annoyed about that. So we got together about 18 months ago and we started this exploration of what does a cradle of learning look like? What's a cradle of learning feel like? And how can we as people, as educators, as education establishments and as society build better practices about making sure that everybody has access to the right education? So with that in mind, in the chat, you will see that there is a link to the Padlet. You should be able to view the Padlet. Can everybody tell me whether or not they have been able to log on to this Padlet? Because what I'm going to ask you to do is to pause your video and your mics and click on the video which is in the first tab and watch that video, which is our Cradle of Learning manifesto film, which we all made together back in May last year, which feels like a lifetime ago now because of various lockdowns and whatnot. And if everybody's on, that's great. Just take a minute or two. It's only maybe 2.5 minutes, that film, and go ahead and watch that for me. So I'm assuming that most people have managed to watch the film. Feel free to, that Padlet will remain open. So if you want to go back in and you want to rewatch the film, either the main film or the bloopers film, which is also in the end tab, then feel free to do that. Equally, if anything occurs to you after the session, you can write it in there and kind of maybe once things have percolated. So as part of the project, as part of the programme, we developed a curriculum that we explored together, which was about exploring what the barriers for young people accessing education are and how we can navigate them. So I'm going to pass over to Jade, who's going to introduce an activity that we do with all of the organisations, young people, participants that we're working with. Jade, would you like to tell us a wee bit about how this came about?
So this came about because we were discussing like different types of brains and how everybody's different and how everybody learns differently. And we were also discussing like, you know, how some people have dyslexia or some people have autism and they don't think the same way that somebody else does. So then we thought about doing this activity so that everybody could describe their brain, and we also thought it was quite fun, a way to introduce an activity or a way to introduce like an event, because it grabs your attention. People think, oh my god, what the hell, that's quite interesting, you know. So that's why we ended up doing that. So if you want to, you don't need to, but if you want to get a piece of paper and you want to draw out your brain, you can do that, and you can put a picture of it on the Padlet, or you could even write something out of what you think your brain is like, just whatever way you think, and you could even say it out loud if you want. It's up to yourself, so you can put it in the Padlet. I'm going to draw my brain just for like a few minutes.
So I'll set a wee timer. And everybody can just draw away. If you feel more comfortable with words, that's absolutely fine. And then, like Jade says, at the end of the timer, which I'm going to set for 5 minutes, is that we will give space for those who want to share what their visualisation of their brain means or what it represents. But there's no obligation to do that. And if you prefer just to take a photograph of it and attach it into the Padlet, that's absolutely fine. You can also add a little comment underneath it if you want to. So the timer's running, and we'll kind of just do that for a couple of minutes and just really think about how your brain and your thought processes work for you.
So I'll even just like, while I'm drawing my brain, I'll just say a bit about my brain. So basically, my brain is a bit like, you know, half down the middle, because I have to be responsible sometimes, and I have to think about my life, even though I don't want to have all those responsibilities, because those responsibilities have been placed on me without my choice. So when I think about, about decisions that I have to make about my family or whatever, then, I have to be like a judge. I have to sit down and be serious. But then there's times when I really want to, have fun and just, like let loose and let my hair down. And I've got the other side where it's like Candyland and candy floss and like, oh my God, this is so fun, and like, rainbows and stuff like that. Yeah, so like that's what my brain is like. And sometimes when I'm in serious meetings or whatever, sometimes the Candyland comes in and I'm like, not right now, like it's not the time, you need to get back in there, like come on. So that's the way my brain is. And the way that I process information is that I read something, but then I have to read it another few times, like after that, like maybe throughout the day or something like that, or maybe I need to write it down. I need to write it down sometimes, and I need to think about it. Like I really, really need to think about what I've read. Like I have to. Like sometimes I put a movie on, like I put, for example, I put Toy Story on the other day, right? And I was reading an article about community education, and what you call it? And I was just like, basically thinking about this article while watching Toy Story, and I was like, that's quite interesting how my brain processes that while I'm watching something else. So yeah. Is everybody drew their brain or like ready to come back now?
We've got a couple of minutes left.
Okay.
If anybody wants to start giving us an explanation of their brain right now, then they can do. While we're finishing off the last couple of minutes of the task, that's absolutely fine.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that.
Oh, that's a lovely brain.
Thank you. I'm not sure it's that pretty, actually, the real version. But yeah, I was trying to... I feel like I definitely was chiming with quite a lot that you were saying in terms of, I know I need to be responsible sometimes, and then in meetings and stuff, I find myself thinking about Drag Race or something sort of Candyland, the way you were describing it. So I feel like it's sometimes a bit of a... I think I've got sort of a brain of two halves as well. And then I feel like, yeah, the creative side is maybe a bit more fun and enjoyable to spend time in than the responsible half.
Yeah.
And then I think I really need to work on sort of controlling my emotional responses to either side of what's ever happening in my brain. So I just thought that's probably important to put in there, but that's probably quite open considering this forum.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was mine.
That's quite a good. That's quite a good brain.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. So that is our timer up. Would anybody else like to explain their brain?
I'm quite happy to do mine.
Yeah, go Alison.
Done with. Okay, so this is my brain. It's all in wee bits. This thing here was meant to be was going to be like a bomb, but it's really it's kind of a mixture between a light bulb and a bomb. And this is all the craziness going on. Great big part of my brain is the kind of love emotion part, but it's really just left for my family. And this bit here is like new bits, new things that happen that kind of disrupt and cause the bomb to explode and all this craziness. But also I've got lots of fluffy bunnies, which is just the wish not to grow up when I'm
Love it.
Fluffy bunny bits.
It's always good to have a bunny rabbit.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I like that.
Alison. Barbara, you want to share yours?
Yeah, I'm happy to share mine. I've taken a picture of it and emailed it to myself, and I was hoping to put it in the Padlet, but I could do that later, I suppose.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
how well I'll be able to show this on the screen because I've used a background, and of course it's always a bit, I don't know how well.
If you put it right up to the camera, then I think we should, or maybe not. Oh,
Right.
no.
I'll talk about it and then I'll put it up in the Padlet afterwards. So
Great.
basically the centre of mine is just a big heart because I always feel I'm really emotionally charged, and that drives a lot of what I do. I've had, and I think it's, I'm reflecting on recent times, quite a lot of challenges in my life with, close friends passing on, and my brain's been really full of that emotion, and my family's had some difficulties as well. So I struggle a lot with, I want to be happy, but, I've had some really sad times recently. Having said that, I've also got in the party bit because I'm a bit of a social animal. So a big balloon there that represents the fun light times that I strive to have, and I actually really, really enjoy. There's a wee glass of red wine in there, which maybe, shouldn't maybe be a priority in my brain, but it does pop in. And there's a mountain because I love walking, I love hill walking, and that's where I go to kind of clear my head. And there's also a stack of books because I strive to be organised, but I'm not very. And the reason I'm not is because, as you'll see in the picture when I get it up, I've got a scribble right through my brain because my brain's actually really messy. And I don't, I'm a wee bit of a flip from one thing to the other. And I've got to work hard to be disciplined. So, yeah, a bit of everything. I'll try and put the picture up if I can, but thanks.
Yeah, please do, Barbara. That's amazing. I really love that activity because I think it, like, how honestly people respond is actually really, like, it's really, like, warming because people tend to be really, really honest about the ways that their brains work and things like that. And I find it, like, just really comforting to hear that there are other people out there who've got messy brains.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to Jade, like, we have this conversation all the time where Jade's like, oh man, I should be doing better. And I'm like, look, it's all a ruse. Adulthood and having it together is just a ruse. Nobody has it together. We're all just making other people try to believe that we've got it together. And I really love that activity because I think it makes us all feel that although our brains are all really, really different, that we all have similarities and we're all, just trying to get by the day.
Exactly.
So I'm going to move on. I'm conscious of time. I'm going to move on to the next activity. And the activity here is about a concept that we come up about, which is this little fires concept. And little fires is something that we sort of stumbled across when we did some work with Strathclyde University a couple of years ago. And it was with their Strathclyde Cares team, so their kind of widening access team, and the interviews that we had with students. This theme came up that it wasn't the sort of the big things that everybody might immediately think of, which were holding people back. It was actually smaller, more manageable things if the right support networks and systems were in place. So I'm going to give each of the young people a chance just to introduce their little fire and their understanding of that. And then we'll have space to share in this experience. What experiences do you have to share? Something that's held you back and something that's encouraged or supported you to succeed. And we'll have you all to kind of add in there. But I'll pass over to Steph, if that's okay with you, Steph, first. And you can introduce your understanding of little fires.
So I've based mine on what actually happened to me when I was at college studying. So my little fire would be that I wasn't getting good sleep at nights because I was stressed with like the work for the college and like other things in my life also. And then it kind of got into being like a bigger fire because then I was having poor concentration. I still wasn't sleeping, and then I was like not going to all my classes, and like I was really struggling. And then it got to the point where it got really big that I struggled that much that I had to just like drop out. I had to just leave the course. But I feel like if maybe like at the beginning when I wasn't getting good sleep, if maybe I had more support from people in the college, to help me with like techniques on helping get to sleep or managing stress levels or things like that, then maybe it wouldn't have gotten to the point that I've had to then drop out. So that's my own little fire.
Thanks, Steph. Kim?
My little fire has been childcare. That's been an absolute barrier for myself to even think about going on to further education. I have a child with pathological demand avoidance. It's basically on the spectrum, so he has to have stability, has to have routine, things like this, and I just find that there's no actual proper childcare provider that's out there that can provide that for my child at the moment. So with that holds me back an awful lot. It's became to the point where now I would love to go and do law, but I can't get to that point quite yet because I need to try and put this in place, and it's going to be such a hard barrier to overcome because there doesn't seem to be anything out there for anyone that's in like further education for children who are not in maybe nursery, they're older, they haven't got like, they've got special needs, things like that. So I find that these barriers are constantly up against me, and it's became a big fire now because it's actually prevented me from being able to further my education, and it's basically holding me back at the moment. And if there was maybe something in place, like a provider that would provide that support and help and understanding of people with children, then it would be maybe a bit better for myself, and I could think about going to it now and moving forward. But at the moment, I'm still kind of stuck where I am. So that's my fire, basically.
Thanks, Kimberly. And Jade?
So I would say that my little fire would be my glasses. So it might seem such a small thing in your life, but it's not to me, because at the time I was having quite a lot of chaos with my family and things like that. And when there's quite a lot of chaos in my life, I end up being really clumsy and I forget things, and I just can't help it. I slur my words, I forget things, I'm late for everything when I have a lot of chaos as well. And there was a time where I left my glasses on the train, and this caused a huge barrier for me because I couldn't see. I can't see without my glasses. I need them every day, and you know what glasses are like? They're expensive. They're like £200 a pair of glasses. So like basically for the full 2 weeks that I went, the full 2 weeks that I went without glasses, I couldn't read my emails. I didn't feel motivated to work or do anything because I couldn't read properly. I wasn't getting stuff done that I should have been getting done. And then, basically Laura, which I was working with Laura at the time, and she was able to provide that, like get me a new pair of glasses, and that like put out a small fire that would seem so little to somebody else, but it was massive to me because it meant that, I was able to get on with things and you start getting things done that I needed to get done. And it also reduced some of my chaos as well, because it meant that I was able to reorganise my brain again because I had what I needed to get on with my life. So yeah, that's mine.
Thank you all for sharing. I never underestimate how hard it is to share personal stories in a room full of people that you don't know. I'd really just like to take a bit of time now for people to either to add into the Padlet about one thing that you feel has held you back. It doesn't need to be education specific, it could be anything. And then one thing that you feel has supported you to succeed in something. And the reason that we're collecting these is because we understand that, in order for us to sort of really think or really interrogate what a Cradle of Learning is, we need to have loads of voices in there, and we need to have lots of input. So if you would like to ask a question, then go ahead. Equally, if you want to just pop into the Padlet and into this share your experiences tab and add something either as a comment or new content into what has held you back or what has encouraged or supported you to succeed. And while people are doing that, then I would like to just open up to any questions or comments. It could be about anything that we've done today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see everybody properly, and we'll have a wee chat if anybody's got anything that they would like to ask about the project, or just share stories. That's fine too. If not, I'll just gab on because I can do that. And I'll provide you with a little bit more of a background to the project and how it came about. So Articulate had started working with the Verbatim Formula, who are an organisation who use verbatim theatre to elevate the voices of those who are underrepresented or perhaps their voices aren't heard. And they use verbatim theatre to capture testimonies and put them in front of people who really need to hear them. So in policy and social workers and things like that. And they work predominantly with people who have experience in the care system. So we started working with them about 18 months ago. The idea was very young at this point. It was about this Cradle of Learning concept. And we had a little bit of, funding to explore with these three young people and another to what that Cradle of Learning might look like. So we spent hours and hours on Zoom doing lots of little activities which were about drawing our brains or about writing our barriers or mapping our barriers. Kim, can you show your book with your barriers on it with the stitches? So in this activity here, we all wrote down what we thought like were steps or barriers or things that you need to go through in order to access further or higher education. And then we used red, amber and green threads to map how we felt about these so that we could really respond really intuitively to how much those things would hold us back in our journeys, in our journeys to success. So we all did this in booklets. Thanks, Kim. And we did lots of different activities that were about that, which were really just about exploring how we felt about our pathways into education, into higher education. So we did that, we got together and we made the film that you all watched at the beginning. I hope you all enjoyed that. That was us getting together, playing together, messing around together and exploring these themes. And we're now at the stage where we've received a little bit more funding to run it's basically a research and development programme into looking at the value, the social value and the economic value of this as a social enterprise. So our young people acting as consultants and researchers with organisations, with education establishments to get them to look at their practices when supporting widened access. So we will run three events, one training event with Strathclyde, one with the University of the Arts for London and one with York University. So we'll work with their students and staff to see how well they understand and how well they support care experienced students in their establishments, and then based on what we learn we'll deliver training for them. So we're kind of going through that process at the moment. So it's grown arms and legs, if you like. But we're also really interested in the earlier steps in the journey and how one of our young folk who she's not here today, but will tell you that she loved learning, but primary education just didn't give her that safety and that support that she needed at a time in her life when it could have been a place of sanctuary. So we're really looking at the full journey from nursery and primary education right through into lifelong learning. And that's kind of where we are just now. So I don't know if anybody has anything else they would like to share, either from our team or from the people that are here, or any questions.
I was going to ask a quick question, if that's okay. So interesting to hear that you're working with new partners on this as well, and it all seems to be picking up a bit of speed for you. What are the blue sky thinking plans beyond that? Because I imagine, knowing Articulate, there will be some. I don't know if that's too cheeky to ask Laura. Tell me to shut up if
Not at all. Not at all. So the idea is that, and I've always advocated that our young people are paid and paid properly for their expertise. If we think, and we're thinking about different ways that we can accredit their skills that have been gained in non-formal education settings. So we're talking with an organisation which is called Clock Your Skills. and they actually provide education right up to PhD for those who have community or life-based learning. So we're thinking about different ways that we can accredit the young researchers as, as researchers and as consultants and as trainers, so that they are able to kind of change the narrative, I suppose, the exploitative narrative where they've maybe shared their experiences in the past, but it's not been a nice experience. So actually, if our young people want to use their experiences to get them into good jobs and to make money, that's great, but they should never be asked to do that, for free or in any way that they're not comfortable with. So the idea is, this is where it gets, is that we have a team of researchers and consultants, and that they go into education establishments, they conduct a period of research, they find out how well that establishment is supporting care experienced people, and then they develop a curriculum of training that they then deliver with that establishment. At the end of that establishment gets the seal of approval from Cradle of Learning that says, actually, yes, you have committed to this, you're going to do better, and we'll continue to revisit that. So we're thinking about, partnerships with like the Office for Students and stuff like that. And that's kind of longer term, but we're probably getting there a bit quicker than we had originally thought. We've already been all up and down the country with this, so it's really exciting.
And I'm sure that must be fantastic for all of those learning establishments as well, to know that they're getting something that's tailored to them, as opposed to this one size fits all and this is how you I know it's a phrase that gets used a lot in terms of education, but in terms of best practice, this is what you should be doing. And in reality, that's not going to be the case for many learners. And I just think it's fantastic, and congratulations on all you're doing so far.
Thank you very much.
We came up with this idea that we should create a neurodivergent university, because we're everything's like sensory within the university, and that basically the whole learning is designed by people that have neurodivergency as well, so that that we're exploring different types of learning. Because I hate the fact that education hasn't changed for a long time, even though we know more now. We know more about autism, but it's still the same curriculum, for example. And I want for education, schools and things like that, I want things to start from an earlier age. I would like for people to learn about I don't know, how to look after their mental health, how to learn how to, not be sensory overloaded, for example, things like that. Because I've realised being in uni that those things are massive and that can happen, and sometimes it's kind of hard, it's not hard knowing what to do, it's hard knowing how to look after yourself when that's happening. It's hard to know who is the right person to talk to at the right time, or who what should you do when, do you know what I mean? If you're having an anxiety attack the week or the day before your assessment, and you're not being able to do anything, what should you do about that? Should you just leave? Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be about that. It should be about the fact that, Steph, she shouldn't have had to leave. She should have been supported, and she should have been said, maybe you can take a year out, or maybe you could take a couple of days out, or maybe we can give you a few extensions. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be about this regimented, oh, you need to tick all these boxes. Do you know what I mean? And sorry, I'm ranting, but I hate the fact that systems run us. We should be running the system, not the system running us, because we know the system. We've been in the system for a very long time. We get along with more adults, more older than us, because we've had to hang around with people that are professionals. So we understand the language. We know what goes on in a system. Do you know what I mean? So I feel we should have the opportunity to design one if we know what happens in one. Sorry, I'm just having a rant now.
No, absolutely. Love that, Jade. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think the idea of a neurodivergent curriculum or a neurodivergent place of learning is a really great idea. And one of my siblings is neurodivergent. He has dyspraxia, and he really struggled through further education because there just wasn't the right supports in place for him at that time. And I think what you're saying, and yeah, I can see how that would really support learners who do have either other responsibilities or additional needs to actually achieve the most. And yeah.
We always talk about equality. This is what all education systems talk about, is equality, but we forgot about equity, what people actually need in order to come on in their education, what they need to help them thrive. They know what they need, but no one's actually listening, and this is what it's all about. So we exploit young people, or we exploit whoever, and that is in order to gain from them, but we're not actually giving them equity ever, because they're never actually getting the stepping stones in order for them to get to where they need to be. They're being told this is how it should be, this is how you should do it, but they're never actually getting equality in the sense, because they're never actually getting the equity in order to have the equality, to actually have the same education as everyone else.
You know, everything you're saying is just resonating with me. In a previous life, I was a head teacher, right? And I wanted to be able to offer the type of curriculum you're talking about. Child-led, child-centred, bespoke, you know, for each individual. But until we lose the shackles of systems and, you know, all that stuff that comes with it, bureaucracy, you know, and I'm not defending the systems, I'm not defending the head teachers, but in a way I'm saying I know why it happens. It's higher up, there's got to be systemic change, where we recognise the learner voice, the adult voice, you know, the young person's voice, and we allow them to shape their own learning journey. You know?
Oh no, we totally understand.
I'm like, we're in a soapbox, I'll just be quiet, but yes, I'm with you all the way.
We totally understand that. Like, you know. Sorry, who was talking there?
No, you're fine, Jade, go ahead.
I was just saying that we totally understand that. Like, we know that, like, some of these things can't be helped. Like, these aren't your decisions to make. We know that. Like, we understand that, you know, like, it's the big man that obviously makes all of these decisions. But why are we not going to the big man and saying, why is this not being changed for 30 years? Why is this still the same, even though we know all this information? Like, that's what I'm, like, sorry, I'm just... I'm just like one of those people that just comes up to you and go, what is your problem? Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like, why not? Do you know what I mean? Like, me and Kimberly used to be involved in a champion. Well, she is. I left because I was annoyed. But we used to be involved in a champions board, and basically, we would go to meetings or we'd go to conferences and things, and we'd go right up to the professionals and be like, you are a corporate parent, whether you like it or not. Like, why are you not doing that? Like, why are you not upholding your, like, you've signed up to be a professional, so why are you not upholding your corporate parenting, you know, thing? It's so confusing, corporate parenting. But then why did they put it in place the first time? Like, why did they put it in place in the first place then? Why not just take it away? If it's so confusing, why not get young people to design it? Because it's their care, you know what I mean? And like,
that's where it's misunderstood, because they try and say that we're the ones that are forming our education, we're the ones that are running our education, but in actual fact, we're exploiting these people. We're making them tell their story in order to get change, get movement, and in actual fact, that exploitation never amounts to anything, because they don't ever get what they need. It's just, you're informing people, but is anybody listening? Is anybody doing? This is what it's to do with. Actions speak louder than words, always in my eyes. As I said, have a child with pathological demand avoidance, and I had to move him schools. The school that he's in now, honestly, that head teacher needs an award. She has got my child writing about computer programming games, because that's what he's interested in. He's not interested in anything that they want to sit down and write about. Like, we're going out a walk today, so we'll talk about the walk that we've done. He's like, I don't want to go out the walk, and I don't want to talk about the walk. So they let him explore his education, what he needs, his equity, what he needs, without having to exploit himself to get what he needs.
And that's why these young folk are leading this movement for us, because it's them that have got the experience, and, like, you know, nobody can I don't think it matters how long you've been in this in the world. I've worked with, you know, folk in care experienced young people for a really long time now, but I'll still never live it. I've never lived it, and that's why it's really important that these researchers' voices are in it, and they're in it as researchers or as consultants, because it's not about, you know, if you could quantify, you know, they say that it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in something, then what level of expertise have these guys got, because they've lived it? And I think it's really, you know, I always find it really emotional when I sit in spaces and just hear them talking and commanding a room and having really, really interesting conversations with folk like yourselves. We've got one last little activity to do on the Padlet. So if we can go back to the Padlet, and your Padlet is the last tab, which is second last tab, which is pledges. So in terms of pledges, we talk about what we can do personally and what we can do organisationally. So under what we can do, that's what we as a society, what we as an organisation. So if you're thinking about the we, you can think about you as in you in society, or you in an organisation, or in your team perhaps, and write something that you think would be achievable, which would help care experienced people achieve better in learning environments. And then the one underneath that is what you can do personally. So that could be it could be about being an ally, it could be about advocating, it could be just about educating, because we are quite, you know, we understand that not everybody necessarily understands all the different themes that are relevant to care and care experience. So it might be about something that you would commit to do on that. So if you can, just go in and give us a couple of words on that while you're doing that. If anybody's got any questions or anybody wants to get back up on their soapbox, I'm all for that.
Well, I'll just say something then if nobody else does.
All count on Dave to cover fill of silence.
I know. I don't like silence. I was just going to say that obviously these Zooms are quite difficult, because like I'm having to stare at people's shapes of faces, and like, you know, like doesn't seem really real because the infectious laugh and all that, like, you know, like doesn't happen on Zoom or Teams or whatever. So I was just going to say that, you know, like you should go away, get yourself a cup of tea, and like look after yourself. Like, you know, like even though I'm saying like mental health for you, it's also mental health for yourself as professionals as well, because if we don't have people that are well enough to look after us, then, you know, like what's the point? Like we need people that are well enough. We don't want professionals that are burnt out. Like we need to have professionals that are, you know, look after themselves too, and we understand that. Do you know what I mean? Because as I've got older, I'm 26 now, so I know that I know more about like about burnout and stuff like that. So I just want to say that, you know, look after yourselves as well, and if you need time off, take time off. Don't feel guilty about it, because at the end of the day, like there's, you know, everybody needs time off. So yeah.
Can I just say thank you so much for saying that, Jade, because I know certainly, and I can speak for a couple of other people on this call as well at the moment, in putting together this event, which has the theme of well-being and creativity, not really taking our own well-being into account in terms of programming today and yesterday, just in terms of having things back to back. And actually for the rest of the week, it's going to be okay. But yeah, I think especially Barbara and Amy, make sure that you're having a big cup of tea afterwards. And I think it is, important to remember that you can't really do too much if you are exhausted and tired. So thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can't pour from an empty cup. So, and I have to truly admit that I'm not very good at that either, but these guys are always making sure that I'm trying and being better with it. They're like, you know, you need care too, which is always heartwarming. I'm never never underestimate their generosity and how much love that they've got to give as well. So that's really us for today. So in mind of taking care, you all have an extra 9 minutes to go and employ some self-care if you so wish. We'll stay here. There's also a final tab that's in the Padlet, which is just about final thoughts. But like I said, the link will stay open. Feel free to go and rewatch the videos. Leave us some comments on the videos if you like. The manifesto, for example, is something that we pulled together last year, and we really wanted to sort of rather than saying things need to change now, we just want to mobilise action. We just want to involve people in the conversation about what education reform looks like. So if there's anything that particularly stirred you in the manifesto, we'd love to hear from you about it. So yeah, like I said, we're going to hang around for the full time, but if you have self-care to go and perform, please feel free to do that, or ask us any questions, whatever you like.
You go and get a
Thank
face
you,
mask and a
This has been
Chinese.
amazing. This has been just amazing. It really has. I think we've just been given a taster, and there's so much more we could learn. And the Padlet's there. We can go back and visit it and dig a bit deeper into some of the resources that you've made available for us. It's just been really interesting, really interactive. And I think it's been quite good actually in terms of just almost like, yeah, you've given us an opportunity to self-care, because I've been writing down things that have worried me, and so thank you for that. Thank you. Has anyone else got a question or a comment? And Amy's put the evaluation form into the chat. So again, whatever feedback we get, Laura and Kim, Jade and Steph will send on to you. So if people could take a few minutes to do that form, that would be fantastic. But maybe other people have got comments or questions that they'd like to come in with now. So open up the floor.
I think Alison's just saying in the chat that she's having to head off just now. Thank you for joining us. And I guess something to mention is that I think we've had slightly lower numbers today, and this has been the case across a lot of our sessions. I think it's because, unfortunately, COVID's still very much with us. I had an email from Iona earlier saying that she was just absolutely sick to the back teeth of COVID. So yeah, I'm wondering whether others might enjoy the recording and then contribute to the Padlet as well. So it would be, you said that was going to be left open, didn't you, Laura? So that'd be great.
Yeah, it's left open. Feel free to dig about in there. You can find contact details. I'm happy for anybody to email me if they want to have further chats with either myself or with Jade or any of the researchers. We're also sort of developing an alternative education programme at the moment as well for those young people who are sorry, that's my dog. That's the noise he makes when he's, I don't know, fed up of me being on here. But yeah, feel free to share my email address if anybody wants to get in touch. But yeah, Padlet's open and feel free to contribute and whatever else.
Thanks so much, Laura. I think Jonathan's right. I think there'll be a few, well, more than a few. I think there'll be a lot of people want to view the recording, and as you say, if they're able to access the Padlet, they'll get not as much as we've got today, but they'll get a flavour of what happened. So just been great. Thank you.